Hey, hey.
When I start talking is when it'll start. Hello, everyone. I'm Dater Lucum, and this is a chat thing that was supposed to happen earlier, but is happening now. This is me and Deflating Atheism discussing things. For those who don't recall, Deflating Atheism made a response video to one of mine, and has been active in some of my comment sections. And we thought, I thought, why not discuss things in an open format so we can hash out all of our various criticisms and questions of each other. And apparently, all of you are really, really eager to see this happen. So, you all know who I am already. So, people call you DA now. So, DA?
Sure, that's fine. I didn't know people called me anything. That's kind of flattering to know that people call me stuff.
It's easier. Your name is long, but
Oh,
at
okay.
least, at least we can pronounce it.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna bring that up at least 5 times.
Okay.
It's Dater Lucum, by the way.
Okay. That was all a joke. That was all a joke. But yes, yes. You have a pretty long name yourself.
Anyway, what is it that you do with your channel? Who are you? Your general overarching opinions on this subject, and then we can start getting into the actual questions.
Okay, well, I'm a guy who lives. I'll just say I live in the South. I'm originally from up north. Moved down here. I never like got on the internet planning to be like a defender of the faith or anything. It's just something where I saw comments on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and always I think maybe it's just like my OCD or something. I just felt compelled to respond again and again, and eventually it just got to the point where I say, well, instead of putting my effort into comments that just kind of wash away with the tide, I'll focus on making YouTube videos that will hopefully stay there a little longer, where I can say what I believe and to just have a platform to express my opinions. But yeah, so it's just kind of a natural. I've had my YouTube channel for like the last 10 months, but I mean I've been doing like apologetics on the internet for like 5 years. I mean, when I say that, I mean just like every time somebody said something in a web forum or something, I jumped in until I became that guy. And whenever I meet people in real life who know me from like Facebook and stuff, they could, yeah, I've seen the debates on Facebook. I mean, so I have to kind of make peace with the fact that I'm now that guy who
I think
debates.
we've all been that guy at some point.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so you had many strong opinions about my opinions in that video. Do we want to just start there, or do you have any specific questions you wanted to start off with?
No, I have like very a general non-pointed question, so you may want to start out with the pointed material first.
No, we can start general. We can general,
Okay.
then narrow it down. That sounds fine.
Okay. Like I say, I'm grossly unprepared. But did you watch the my video where I had a Skype call with? There was actually a Google Hangouts with a Christian apologist named James Bishop Smiley, and we had like.
No, I don't think I did. I think I only
Oh,
watched the one that you made of me,
oh, okay.
which makes me feel slightly egotistical now,
Yes.
but I'm okay with it.
But yeah, so I basically I wish I could find a file on my computer, but I made a list of like I think 7 questions or something. But what I was hoping was to get a list of questions where I could ask them equally of theists, of Christians, and of atheists, because they're questions like, in 5 years, where do you see a religious discussion going from where it is here? How do you think this is going to play out historically? Which I think is actually a pretty interesting question. So let me throw that at you.
Where do you think religious discussion will be in 5 years?
I
Or
mean, where do you
just,
think religious opinion and discussion? I mean, obviously, I mean, atheism is making a lot of noise now. How do you think that's going to play out in 5 years or 10 years or so?
okay, fair enough question. So, like, I guess I can only compare it to what it was like 5 to 10 years ago, and that was when I was barely introduced to any of this stuff, I guess. But back then, it was very, like, hardcore discussions, piles of evidence being shoveled in front of people, and, like, all of the classic arguments that we hear and have thrown back and forth were basically either solidified or made popular. For me, at least, was like 5 to 10 years ago. So that amount of time happening again into the future, honestly, I feel like it's just going to devolve into a conversation of either opinion or presuppositional apologetics. Because there really won't be any, like, substantial evidence for any particular religion anymore. Like, right now, I would say there isn't any. But that's a... We'll probably get on that in a few minutes. But I think the last holdouts in the next decade or so will finally just resign themselves to a presuppositional apologetics, because that seems to be the trend.
Okay. I mean, I disagree strongly with that, but yeah.
I thought you would.
Yes. Because yeah, I mean, that's something I've noticed is that, I mean, I remember a lot of these. Again, I'm basically quoting myself when I was discussing with James Bishop, but a lot of the big heavy hitter YouTube channels, you know, I remember them from back in the day. I went back and visited them, and some of them haven't had like significant traffic. I'm talking about, this is on the atheist side too. A lot of them haven't had significant traffic since like 2010. You know.
So I remember a comment chain that had that information on it, but it's on one of your videos. But I obviously disagree. I mean, a lot of the focus of many of the more popular atheists has shifted because religion is a done game in a lot of their opinions, where it's like the arguments aren't worth having anymore, because it basically boils back down to, there is no evidence for this. We're really just talking about either semantics, arguing the definition of words, or just arguing about whether or not religion should be in government or not. Like, that seems to be where all the arguments are. Like, do you accept that evolution happened?
Yes, in fact, that's the exact phrasing, that's the exact cagey phrasing I would use. Yes, I believe evolution is something that happened. I believe it's something that does happen.
You see, like 5-10 years ago, that wasn't a popular statement to say in religious circles. Now it's basically, you can't get away with saying that without a lot of people just groaning and rolling their eyes.
Let me tell you this. As I said, I mean, I can only speak from my experience. I grew up a Catholic. I was never at any point told that a literal reading of Genesis was in any way required. I grew up a Catholic. I've always believed in God. I've always believed evolution occurs.
Oh,
that never seemed to be an issue to me up until like Richard Dawkins started his campaign. And Richard Dawkins has actually got on record saying he thinks Christians should be more committed to a literal reading of Genesis.
And I could explain why he says stuff like that, and why a lot of people say stuff like that, and why I often fall into that, I guess, trap of over interpreting the Bible, or I guess under interpreting it. And that's basically because, like, I can say it in this question: how do you know, or how do you possibly decide that this is something that you can take allegorically, and then other parts is like, no, but this part is literal? I know there's the argument that some of it is poetry and some of it is written as historical fact, but most people don't read it in the original language, and most people don't actually care. It's really just piecemeal for most people. So you as an individual, how do you decide that Genesis is not literal, but, like, I don't know, Jesus or something dying is a literal thing that happened?
Well, I mean, first off, there is, I mean, Jesus, I mean, the resurrection is not just the accounts, and you also have to consider the genre in which these are written. I mean, with the Gospels, those are obviously Greco-Roman biographies. There are
Well,
separate attestations from Tacitus and Josephus and
no, but
Suetonius.
okay, so the resurrection is probably a bad example because it's a historical argument and it's difficult to decide either way. But the point I'm making is like there used to be a time where it was taken literally by just about everybody.
Yeah.
So why did we stop
No,
doing that?
no, actually, it was not until the 19th century, until some of the revivals in the United States in the 19th century, that creationism actually became a trend. Because if you go back to like the 4th century, I mean, you have Saint Augustine who was warning us not to take a too literal reading of Genesis.
Well, if he's warning, then that implies that some people did.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely some people did.
That's what I'm asking is like, how did
not committed to a literal reading, you know?
No, but that's what I'm asking is how does one decide whether or not something should be taken literally and something else shouldn't?
No, that is a fair question. That is a fair question. I mean, it just first off, I mean, with the creation of the world, obviously we're this is you know, supposedly it came to us from Moses, and so we're just reading something that was revealed to him, and it's not necessarily you know a science textbook, and so you just have to consider the context in which it's presented, you know.
Well, then why should anyone take it seriously? Like if we can't treat it like a science book, like we can't substantiate the claims with mountains of evidence. Why would one want to take it? Why would one want to take it any consideration at all?
Well, I mean, the Bible also contains Psalms. It also contains the Song of Songs. I mean, you know.
Yeah, but it's like how much of it? I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but I don't want to accidentally go down a rabbit hole. Like how much of it needs to be wrong for you to question the other parts of it?
None of it is wrong.
Well, Genesis is. When I say wrong, I mean inaccurate.
No, but I mean, I think like if you're going to take the story of Adam and Eve, and whether Adam and Eve were in fact historical persons is an interesting question. I'm not discounting that possibility, certainly, but the story itself is the most true thing ever written.
You see now. What do you mean by reading it literally? Because that sounds like a literalist interpretation of Genesis.
No, I'm saying it's the most true as a moral story, as an allegory. It tells us something very profound about human nature. So it is true in that sense.
I think we have different definitions of true. Like, what is it? The Grimm's fables or whatever they're called. Those fables have good reflections of some of humans' nasty characteristics. That doesn't mean those stories actually happened.
No.
So are you saying true as in reflects humans, or true as in these events actually happened?
I believe that it is an accurate description of human nature and of human fallenness.
Okay.
I think that has always been the way it has traditionally been read.
Well, no, because even you said back in the day there was at least groups of people, and there is a ton of people today who think that it is actually literally true.
Yes, but then there is again, as I said, people who have always read it allegorically too. Maybe
so if it's this is the okay. So one of the reasons why a lot of atheists try to like go this route of reading it literally, because if you don't, you come into a lot of different problems. Like, the fall of man sort of deal only can happen if that story was literally true. Otherwise, you have to come up with another explanation for why mankind has, like, original sin. And if you don't have the original sin, then why did Jesus die? And basically, why is Christianity a thing? Like, this is why, like, it's hard to get around these issues if you don't take a literal interpretation. But if you do take a literal interpretation, it's more wrong. Like, we know that the entire population did not start from 2 individuals. Like, that didn't happen. Even in the Bible, it didn't happen because there are other tribes.
There are other people obviously around. Yes.
So that's a lot of the story is very weird. But you know what I'm saying is like if you discount the literal interpretation, then more parts of the story become problematic.
Yeah, again, I think there are you can have sin exists in the world. We are all fallen. When again, that does not commit us to a literal reading of Genesis.
Why is there sin in the world?
There is.
Why though? Like in the story, why is there sin in the world?
In the literal reading of Genesis?
No, in your reading of Genesis. Like, if you're not taking it literally, how is there just sin in the world?
Because we willingly choose evil.
Why? Like, I keep saying why, because if the story's not literal, where did these qualities come from?
The quality of evil?
Yeah, where does it come from? According to the literal interpretation, it was because of the fall of man, going against God, falling from grace, like all that sort of stuff from eating the apple. That's where the evil came from, was disobeying God. But if that never happened, or if that's just an allegory to describe shitty things about humans, why were humans created evil?
Humans were not created evil.
They were, if there is no fall of man literal interpretation of Genesis. They had to have been created evil by God.
No, that does not follow.
Well, where did evil come from?
Evil came from the devil. It came from Satan.
Okay, so Satan is a real thing. But
yes,
the Satan in the garden is not a real thing. You understand why the literal interpretation makes this argument a lot easier? If you don't do this is like, it's actually kind of ironic. Taking a literal interpretation of the Bible is like atheists giving it its best shot. Because otherwise you fall into plot holes.
Again, I disagree with that. There's never been this huge commitment to reading Genesis literally.
Well, because I honestly say that there's not been much argument about that because people don't think about it. Like the classic glib response is if you want to know what's wrong with your religion, ask somebody who doesn't believe in it. I would actually include.
Well, I would take grave issues with that. I think atheists.
Oh, I'm not saying atheists. If you want to know what's wrong with Christianity? Ask a Jew.
Oh, I know what a Jew would say. They would say that Jesus is not the Messiah,
Fair enough. You can ask a Muslim, but then it gets even more complicated. Sort of a Messiah, but not ours.
Well, yeah, that's the thing they have. I'm
not a Muslim, so I wouldn't be able to answer that question. But there's internal it's not consistent throughout the story. And if you basically decide, if you arbitrarily decide what to take literally and what not, you're not going to get a conducive story. Like, it just doesn't work. You have to just insert things to make the rest of it make sense. And I understand that everyone will do that. Everyone does. That's why the other glib response is there's as many Christianities as there are Christians. And it's very accurate. That's why I'm trying to go very deep into just what you specifically believe and try to figure out how that works.
Yeah, well, that what we just had is not a discussion I have at all. That's just not a topic I've ever focused on.
I recommend it.
Okay.
I recommend trying to see if your story is consistent. Because... Go ahead, sorry.
Is that what you're hanging your hat on as being anti-Christian? Is the kind of literal reading of Genesis? Is that what you think?
I'm anti-Christian because of the actions of so many Christians over the centuries. I'm an atheist because I haven't been convinced of a religion. Like, if I was convinced Christianity was an accurate representation of the universe, I still wouldn't be a Christian.
I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot.
And I'll explain why. Like, Christianity is freaking creepy. Like, first off, the entire characterization, even if you interpret Genesis, it's weird. It's like, you know the story. Like, God created man with the capacity to do evil, let them alone in an area where he presumably knew they were going to sin, told them not to do something before they understood what good and evil were, and then got mad at them when they broke that rule, even though they had no idea that breaking a rule was even a bad thing to do. And then they were exiled forever. And then the idea of vicarious redemption through Jesus is the most despicable thing I can think of. Like, it's quite literally if you and me had a vicious argument about something, and then I said, here, I have a son, I'll kill him, and then I'll be able to forgive you. Or more accurately, the neighbors will kill him so I can forgive you.
But Jesus was God incarnate.
Okay, so you can kill my mini-me clone, and then I'll forgive you for having this argument with me. Regardless of who is actually being killed, one should not be... Like, why is murder the way to fix this problem? Like, it's arbitrary, for one thing, and it just shows, like, the impotence of that particular God character. Why couldn't he just forgive everybody? Why is it not within his power of infinite humility through infinite mercy to just forgive everybody for ridiculous sins that, as the previous part of my discussion illustrates, he knew they were going to have in them from the very start? The entire story is ridiculous.
Well, no, it's God has given his grace, and it must be freely chosen. So yeah, it's freely given, but it's not compulsorily taken. That's how I describe it.
Why is grace a good thing?
That's
Why? Because God says so? God says it's a good thing, so that makes it a good thing? From what I can say, all the advice that God ever gave just fucked over people.
Okay.
So it's like, why is this... It's the illusory, like, carrot on a stick. It's like, if you follow these rules that I set out, then I will give you this gift so that you can get a reward that you're only going to know about after you die. So it's actually like a carrot on a it's a promise of a carrot on a stick. Like, it's really not a good story. You seem like you're questioning something. Or
no,
perhaps want to yell at me.
It doesn't even seem like an argument. It's like, okay, I don't like this. Well, I mean, what am I supposed to say to that, you know?
Why do you like it?
It's not a matter of liking it.
Why do you think it's true? Why do you think that's how the world should be? Or how the world actually is, to be more accurate. Why do you believe this?
Why do I believe this? Because I mean, if you read like the prophecies of the Old Testament and compare them to the life of Jesus and compare and take the resurrection into account.
So I know you know about this. That the New Testament was written after the Old Testament, and they could have just written in whatever they wanted to meet whatever prophecies. And that not all the prophecies were actually met.
Yes, but I mean we have separate entities. People would have known if these things did not actually happen. So the
Tyre still exists.
Oh yeah, that thing. I was actually unaware of that whole debate until about 2 weeks ago. So yeah,
it's a classic.
You're hitting on topics here that I actually don't. I don't have like an argument where I come out wrong.
Oh no.
Normally,
so I don't want to sound so.
Like,
I keep interrupting you, and I'm sorry. But I don't want to sound accusatory. I just get animated on this particular subject. I encourage you to think about this. And for everybody listening to also think about this sort of stuff. Because that's what I wanted to do in these conversations. I wanted to figure out exactly what it is you believe, and then we can just talk about it. Because you don't seem like an unintelligent person. But I do think you're wrong.
Okay.
So, conversations.
Well, what I was going to say is like, normally I do not deal with like historical questions or anything. I focus on the philosophical / logical end of things. And so if people want to discuss history or like the Old Testament, normally I would say go to like Tecton TV or some guy like that who can do that much better than I can, certainly. But
and I would recommend people like Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Ra. Because they also are extremely familiar with it, and it's what caused them to be atheists.
Well, Aaron Ra has now committed himself to that Jesus mythicism these days, hasn't he?
I don't think anyone in that particular camp has dedicated themselves to anything. It's just like I'm kind of in that camp where, unless proven otherwise, I'm fine with him being a legend or a myth of some kind. Like, I just follow the evidence. I don't really care.
That's another video I responded in the comments. Yeah.
But anywho, the only reason I went down the history route is because that's what you said was the reason you believed in the other stuff. So I was really just following you. So if it's not necessarily because, I'm sorry?
It's not the only reason.
Okay, well, if we don't want to go too into the history, which I'll also admit I don't know everything about, so let's go into stuff we both can talk about. What are your logical, philosophical justifications?
I mean, there are a lot, but
give me your top two.
Okay, top two is I would say first off, the universe as a contingent thing demands kind of a necessarily existing first cause, and then I'll go to the fine tuning. I mean, I think that's just so compelling. Is that you see, it definitely looks like the universe has been engineered from the very beginning by a mind in every way.
Okay, so I'll start with that one, because that's a fun topic. So I always forget the person that came up with this analogy, so forgive me if you ever manage to watch this. But it's, if a puddle suddenly became sentient.
What did I just tell you?
Oh, did you just say puddle?
Adams. Yes, it's Douglas Adams. I've heard
Douglas Adams, thank you.
Yes.
I always forget him. But you know the puddle analogy.
I've heard it so many times, but
how is that different? Like, how do you get reconvinced by that? How do you not get reconvinced by that argument?
Well, I mean, it's not an argument, but we could say that okay, the constants of our universe appear to be fine-tuned. I mean, by like 10, like the cosmological constant is like 10 to the 120th power, which is more than the number of particles.
Do you know where that constant comes from?
What?
So I don't know all of the math, obviously. I'm not a freaking cosmological physicist. But it's effectively the same as some physicist is gonna yell at me for this. But it's along the same lines as like dividing the sides of a triangle and getting a perfect value from that. It's after all of the algorithms and math is done, it comes up with this one generic value. And that's just because all you're doing is comparing a bunch of numbers together, and then you get one value out of it. It's not like this number was just floating in the universe. It was derived by math. So of course it's going to be one specific value with very high specificity.
Well, I mean, the matter isn't how it is derived. Of course, it's derived mathematically.
No, I'm saying any derived value like that will be as specific. like, the specificity of that constant I don't see as compelling at all, because all it is something that was a derived value. It's like the number that you have to multiply US dollars to get pounds or euros or whatever. It's a defined constant.
So what? I mean, it's like...
It doesn't mean it was created by a mind. It's just, well, it was, but it's saying it only reflects reality to the degree of the equations used to derive it.
But that's a non-argument. If you're talking about like dollars to pounds, when they say, well, if the dollar was weaker, then we couldn't afford to buy this. Then we could...
Yes, that's the point. Is if you had different values that go into deriving that constant, the constant would change.
Okay, but this point still stands that if whatever you have, again, I'm just taking your word for it here. If what you have is the numerator and the denominator were different, then the universe we see could not exist. Life could not exist.
As we know it, is the point.
Well, it's really hard to even imagine how life could exist. My mouth is getting dry here, by the way. If it was just a completely entropic dust cloud, or if it completely collapsed, if the universe collapsed in on itself a fraction of a second after the Big Bang, you know.
Sure, but we don't know everything that would happen if some of the constants were different and that just shifted it slightly. Like, we're really having a stupid argument here because neither of us know exactly how it was derived. But the only point that I'm making is it's a mathematically derived constant. It's not like... Well, it's different than, like gravity is mathematically defined, but it's something that people also say is a ridiculous constant that has incredible specificity, and if we didn't have it exactly that perfect, then life couldn't exist. And that's wrong. Like, that's just flat out wrong.
Would you mind kind of divulging your sources on this?
Because wait, you mean with gravity? Like,
no, I mean like with the cosmological constant and that.
Oh, I just research it. Like, I don't have specific websites or anything.
Okay, well,
let me just look up cosmological constant.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get some more water. I'll be right back.
And I'm gonna research the cosmological constant. Hello, chat. How you doing? The cosmological constant is an extra term added by Einstein in working out equations in general relativity to describe the universe in the situation when it is static, that is, non-expanding. Neato.
It's the curvature of the universe, isn't it?
In trying to solve the differential equation to describe spacetime, Einstein needed to add a constant term to avoid having the universe collapse upon itself. This term balances the attractive force of gravity contributed by all the matter of the universe. Physically, this term represents the vacuum energy, the possibility the empty space possesses density and pressure, thus preventing the universe from collapsing. So it's actually even stupider than I thought.
Oh, come on. No, it's actually, towards the end of his life, Einstein actually thought that was a great error on his part, but then... More recently, the cosmological constant was kind of vindicated. He thought it was a great error, yeah.
Although the reason for Einstein's inclusion of the term is no longer valid, there remains a possibility that the cosmological constant is not zero. So all this is okay. So it's almost exactly like the dollars to pounds analogy. It's like the attractive forces of the universe versus the vacuum energy that makes it so the universe doesn't collapse in on itself. So you need to add... He literally added a value that balanced the universe. So it could have literally been anything.
Your argument doesn't hold together here. It's...
If the attractive forces of the universe were slightly different, the cosmological constant would be different.
Yes, exactly. If the cosmological constant were different, the universe we see would not exist. That is the entire point.
Yes, so what's the problem? Like, this is why I brought up the puddle analogy initially, because of course I did. If the puddle was slightly different shaped, then the universe or the puddle itself would be slightly different shaped. Like, we don't know what the universe would be like if the values were slightly different. but that doesn't mean
You,
that they're magic.
you have completely misapprehended the nature of the fine-tuning. You have completely misapprehended it.
I don't think I have. Like,
Yeah,
every time I hear the fine-tuning argument, it's always like, then life wouldn't exist. It's like, we probably wouldn't exist, but
well, no,
other things could have.
That's different. That is a different objection than the one you were making.
No, that's okay. Fine. I'm saying in a generic.
Well.
Fair. I'm saying in a generic sense, if any of the values that we find of the current universe were different, it would just result in a different kind of universe. I don't see why that means ours has to be finely tuned by a god. Like, that's the jump that I don't understand people can make.
Okay, I agree 100% that the universe would be different if these constants were different. I agree. I disagree with your premise that life could exist but no, I mean, it just seems like you're throwing everything else you said heretofore under the bus. I mean,
I'm not though. This is why the puddle analogy is so perfect for this. No, listen. That's why the puddle analogy is so perfect for this. Is, of course, the puddle in its current shape, in its sentient shape, let's say, could only exist in a hole that was that shape. So we exist in this universe because this is the only universe in which we could have developed in the current way that we have.
Well, I mean,
why does this imply a god?
Many people say that it goes back to the fact that unless life could somehow develop in a universe that only exists for a fraction of a second. Oh, I mean, by the orders of 10 to the 60th power of a fraction of a second. Or if it's just a completely entropic dust cloud, then you get the whole thing. Well, it's more. Those
aren't the only two options.
If you nudge the constants a little bit, that's what you're going to get at either end. That is the whole point of the fine-tuning argument.
So is it just the cosmological?
Misapprehended. You've completely misapprehended the nature of the fine-tuning argument. The argument is not that the constants can't be what they are. It's not like they're necessarily bound to have these values. That is not the fine-tuning argument. The fine-tuning argument is if they were something other than what they are now, by astronomical degree, we would not see a universe at all capable of creating or sustaining life.
And my response to that is so?
That is the fine-tuning argument.
Why does that lead to a god?
That the universe is fine-tuned for life. That is the nature.
Why does that equal God?
Because the universe shows the earmarks of design.
Why?
Which would
what is designed? All that you've demonstrated at all in this description is that the universe, like, I'm granting you a lot of stuff right now, is that if these values were fine-tuned or are what all you've demonstrated is if the values are what they are, then life can exist. Where does God come in? Why does life existing denote God must exist?
It's not life. It's that the universe was fine-tuned from the very first instance. The universe
why
was fine-tuned to sustain life.
Also, no. As far as we know, for most of the universe's existence, there was no life. So,
actually, on Earth, I mean, life took no time, in the grand geologic scheme, getting up and running.
It was like several billion years.
It is alarmingly fast. Well, because first off, I mean, it was incredibly hot. That then once the temperatures evened out, then immediately almost within that geologic time scale, life started getting up and running.
Okay. Like, I'm not seeing why any of this leads to a god.
It leads to a design.
Why? All you described is things are as they are. So where is the designer? Why did a designer have to do anything? That's why I keep saying if things were different, then it would just be different.
Yeah.
So why is a designer needed for any of this? Why does that, like, what is special about life? Seriously, why is life special as far as, like, chemistry or physics goes?
I mean, if that's what you're going to winnow your complete worldview down to, that you know,
this is one point I'm talking about.
The whole point is that the universe was, I mean, it creates minds, it creates self-aware beings, as God himself is self-aware.
You're just inserting the God. Like, you've given me no reason to think that a God was needed for any of this.
I mean, it's a rational inference to take, since you gave the puddle.
Oh, so it's an inference, is what you're saying.
Oh, undoubtedly.
So you have no evidence. You're just kind of inferring it based on what you're observing.
No, it does not follow at all. But to use a similar, since you use the puddle analogy, I'll use like I think it was John Lennox's analogy, that if you're on a desert island and you saw the letters SOS written out on the beach in rocks, would you not would the fact that those rocks were placed there by a person, would that not be a rational inference?
It's definitely a possibility. I would definitely go on the assumption that that's what happened, but that has nothing to do with the start of the universe.
Yes, it does. It is the exact same. See the earmarks of design, and
What are the earmarks?
The earmarks is that the constants have been incredibly fine-tuned to produce a life-sustaining universe.
Most of the universe, things would die instantly.
Well, I mean...
Only in very small pockets can life even sort of exist. On our planet, most of life dies.
I mean, that's such a non-objection. The fact is...
No, it isn't! I'm saying, you're saying that the universe was created for life. Why is there not life literally everywhere?
Why does there need to be?
That's my point.
It's a completely arbitrary assumption that for there to be a life-sustaining universe that is capable of producing life must be everywhere. That's a complete assumption that you're just pulling out of the ether there.
I'm saying that life is a consequence of some specific things lining up in the right way. This, like, if you saw, like, I can't even come up with an analogy for this because it's just so silly. It's like, most of the universe does not sustain life. So, did God just fail? Or was it only in a sense that only when tiny pockets of possibly life-sustaining variables line up that life can exist? Basically, the universe looks as if, to my observation, a non-life-sustaining universe that just happens to occasionally make life-sustaining pockets.
I mean that's, again, you keep throwing these assumptions out there that you have no basis for. That most of the universe doesn't sustain life means that God failed. Is the amount of life in the universe a metric of God's success? I don't see how that follows at all.
Now you know how I feel. I agree with you. That isn't a good metric of measuring that, but now I hope you understand why these variables existing doesn't automatically denote anything.
The fact that life exists at all, or that intelligent life can emerge, is something that you know, what we know of the laws of how the universe operates is something that is wildly improbable, and considering what we know of the laws of the universe, we should naturally expect to find ourselves in a universe, at the very least, whose constants don't require fine-tuning. Just
None of it required okay, so I kind of let this slide, but now you've mentioned it too many times. The only variable that you brought up that is fine-tuned is the cosmological constant.
They're like a dozen.
What are they?
Well, I'd have to look them up.
Because whenever they're brought up to me, it's something like gravity, which is largely irrelevant. And then the closeness to the sun, which is something like 13% of the distance.
That goes into something else. There's the argument there's the argument that the solar system is fine tuned. But I'm not talking about the.
No, but this is the thing that I don't think you're. This is the part that I don't think you're grasping, and I don't blame you because it's kind of like odd, but it's this idea that just because things happen doesn't necessitate that a god is there. Like, that's what I keep asking you, is what's the justification that a god is necessary for this sort of stuff to happen? It was mentioned in the chat.
It's not necessary to talk about a god. The thing is, if we observe design in nature, it becomes a rational inference.
No, it doesn't.
For a designer.
No, it doesn't. Because first off, have to demonstrate its design. And you haven't done that yet.
I think the fine tuning of the constants is
you haven't even demonstrated they're finely tuned. Like, these are all the jumps that you're making.
No, it's already been explained that if you took these constants and nudged them a little bit, you would not have a universe at all capable of being anything other than a totally entropic dust cloud.
Once more, that is incorrect. But even if it was,
throw that out there.
Even if you just threw it out there as if it was gospel, and it's not. All that would happen is the universe would be different.
Yes. Different in such a way that it could not sustain life. This is not me.
Why does that matter? Why does life matter? Like, on a universal scale, what the hell does life matter?
No one cares. No one cares. I mean, as far as the fine-tuning argument, no one is saying if there's a universe that's a complete entropic dust cloud, that's just that there has to be a god. That's a matter for like the contingency argument or something. But that's not the point. Is that there is a universe, therefore there's a god. That's not the point of the fine-tuning
That's all you're saying.
No, that we have a universe capable of sustaining life.
Yes, we have a puddle that's capable of holding a puddle. We have a hole that's capable of holding a puddle.
Great, so all the zillions and zillions and even beyond zillions of universes that either collapse in on themselves or just complete dust clouds. Those are the fact that our universe is not one of those is what the fine-tuning argument is.
So
yes, so
you're making the jump to a god having to exist for it.
I'm of a designer.
Let's not play games. It's a god, isn't it?
You can call it what you want. You could call it a koala bear if you want. It doesn't matter what you call it.
Where'd it go? I prefer to call it a stapler.
Do that.
It's a running gag on my channel. This is the stapler that created your god.
I can't see shit, by the way.
Oh, well. This is the stapler that created your god.
So the stapler that exists in our universe created the god that created our universe.
It's an extra-dimensional super stapler.
So the universe is causally prior to itself?
Yes.
Okay.
This is what some of these arguments sound like to me. But anywho, we've labored on this particular topic long enough. The chat, I think, is trying to actively claw out my eyes.
Oh.
So let's move on. Thank you, chat, for not jumping through the screen and attacking. A lot of people keep asking the same question. How do you define atheist?
Ooh, this is a good topic. Actually, I'm gonna sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold here. Tell me what you have to say. I'm just gonna go get some more water.
What? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know what's going on now. God damn it, Deter. Apparently. What are people asking? The planet doesn't tune itself to us, we tune ourselves to the planet. Oh, damn it. I did forget to mention that. Thank you, chat.
But no, I mean the point
No, actually, no. This chat reminded me of one of the most important points countering the fine-tuning argument. It's the idea that, you know, like I mentioned this before, it's like life as we know it. The reason I say stuff like that is life tunes itself to the universe that it exists in. The universe doesn't...
I've heard this so many times, you're not telling me anything.
Yes, I am! It's evolution, it's science, it's chemistry. It's this idea that things will mold itself to the variables of the universe, because literally nothing else can happen. It's not the other way around.
But no, I mean, even to have evolution, as we say, we're assuming that there are these proteins swimming around in this kind of primordial soup. That would not happen at all. That would not even be a thing if you nudge the constants. No life is going to emerge in a universe that exists for a fraction of a second.
Those aren't the only options.
Or becomes a big rip where you know none of the particles can even interact with each other.
Those aren't the only options.
Yeah, well, if you nudge the constants of the universe, that is by far the most likely result.
I think you should listen to more people than just people that agree with you.
That is the whole point of the fine-tuning. Like I said,
it's been discredited so many times.
No, it hasn't, because you completely... How can you even say that it's been discredited so many times when you even fail to apprehend what the fine-tuning argument is?
I know what the fine-tuning argument is. That's why I've been trying to explain to you how it's nonsense. But anyway, we did labor on it enough, and we're not going back to it. That was just a point the chat was yelling at me to actually talk about.
Like everything you would say on that, I've heard a million times before. None of it holds water.
It all holds water. You just insert God for some reason. But anyway, define atheist.
I mean, you can define atheist in a useful way, or you could define atheist in a useless way that helps no one and only helps to serve a purpose. So for me, I will go with the dictionary here, and say that atheism is the belief that there is no God.
Belief that there is no God?
Yes.
All right, that's one of the ways to interpret it. A lot of atheists nowadays, and I think actually for a long time now, have just been defining it as lack of belief in a God. Just saying, like, I have not been convinced of a religion being true, any religion, so I am without all of those.
Again, that is what I had in mind with the unsatisfactory definition of atheist.
Why?
Well, let me put it this way: is that we're framing things as a disagreement here, right? I mean, the only reason we're having this discussion is because we assent to the premise that there is disagreement here, that we have different positions on things. Now, if an atheist comes up to me and says, I lack a belief in God, I'll say, I agree with you 100%. You do lack a belief in God. There's no disagreement here. There's no basis for debate. Now, if you want to step beyond your own personal beliefs or opinions, if you actually make a comment about the world outside, then we might actually have a basis for debate. But
well, I mean, this entire conversation was me just asking you, why do you believe these things? So that is I did have a conversation with you based on that one question.
Okay, well, it would be a conversation, but I mean, you can prod me for my beliefs, but unless you're actually making a comment about the world, there is no basis for disagreement. So
have I actually made any comment?
Well, just my point is that unless you make a comment that my thinking is somehow erroneous, I like the way I said that, by the way. But unless you actually or make the statement that somehow I'm erroneous in my thinking, there's no disagreement. It's just there is no debate, you know.
Well, that's kind of that I agree with you, but that's because, like, that's where these conversations come from, is because I don't believe what you're saying.
Okay.
So that's why we're talking about it. I also have an interest in understanding why you're saying the things that you are. And I also find that these conversations are very entertaining for random people.
Yeah.
So, bonuses.
like I said, I mean, it could be completely arbitrary reasons for not agreeing with what I'm saying. But if you are going to say that my thinking is wrong, then we'll have a meaningful discussion. And that's
So I don't
know
see
it
those
sounds like
aren't
I'm
mutually
talking in circles.
exclusive. Like that's my point, is those aren't mutually exclusive stances.
Yes,
Like
but then you have a burden once you make a statement of fact, once you make a statement of knowledge rather, then you have a burden rather than just saying, oh, I don't see I don't see any evidence for God. I lack a belief in
ah,
God.
so
That for me is just like, well, I like chocolate ice cream. I was like, well, great for you, you know. But you have to step beyond that for there to be a meaningful discussion, just beyond your
you
impression.
realized throughout this entire conversation for for a little over an hour, I never once said that I do not believe a God exists or that no gods exist.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm just talking in the abstract. I'm just,
No, but I'm saying that I do go by the lack of belief in a God definition, and it still can lead to completely productive conversations. And that's because my entire endeavor is to,
yeah.
well, I can say all
Well,
of my endeavor. I want to understand what you believe, and I want you to question what you believe.
Okay.
So that's my position does lead to productive conversations. How dare you?
I can't. No, you've completely. How dare I? No,
I'm being glib.
Okay. I honestly, I can't even see her face here. I'm just talking to a gray wall here.
Well, I can open
So,
this. It's
oh, hey.
no, I have a camcorder that's using for the actual stream.
Oh, okay.
So,
I see your glorious face here. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, so you have a useful definition of atheism, and if your definition of atheist, lacking a belief in God, would also include babies and rocks and frogs and tree stumps, I don't think you have much of a basis for declaring that atheism is the rational position or something.
I definitely would, and like that's the funny thing is people bring that comparison up a lot, and I'm like, okay. I'm fine with the definition extending to babies and rocks and toads and whatever, because it is just it's just a position on I have not been convinced of something yet.
It's not a position.
Yes, but it's the same as saying like I'm not going to negate the possibility of ghosts existing, but I'm not going to actively say there is no possibility of ghosts ever.
Okay.
I think I just said the same thing twice. So I'm just going to say I'm not convinced ghosts exist. But people don't suddenly go all up in the air and say, "Oh, you're an ghostist." It's like that's silly.
So you're undecided.
No, I'm waiting. Like my lack of belief is what. So this is why it's kind of silly. Because, like, my lack of belief is basically, like, I would say I don't believe a God exists, but that is only predicated on the lack of that belief existing in me to begin with. I've never been convinced that one exists, so I don't think one exists. I don't see why that's a complicated position for someone to be in. I don't believe ghosts exist, because I've never been given a reason to think that they do.
Okay.
I could be convinced. I'm not outside of the realm.
You're just making a comment about your own beliefs. You're not making a comment about the world. I mean,
I don't have to.
Okay.
Like, that's the point. That's why a lot of people have said atheism is the default position. It's where they have not been convinced of any direction yet, so they just don't believe any of it.
Well, okay, even assuming atheism is a lack of belief, and even assuming atheism is the default position, then that does not mean that the default position is God does not exist. That is not the default.
I never said that.
Okay.
That's the point.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just
no, that's why, like, when you said there's no, like, burden of proof or anything, and it's like, yes, I agree with you. I don't have any burden of proof. And I don't want it. Because I basically have to prove a negative, and that's ridiculous.
You can do that. I mean, but I mean that I forget. I was going to make a very important and long point. I slipped them. Probably for the best. Probably for the best.
Hold on that, because one of the hooded skeptic asks, why do you
Why do they have fucking names like this? The hooded skeptic, yeah.
The icon wears a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
So it's like, why do you do you disbelieve? I'm gonna reword it so it's more in what I was saying. Why do you disbelieve in all of the other gods that other people believe in? Like, you know, like that old deal.
This is a 2-hour discussion right here. I mean,
is it? Like, do you believe in Zeus?
Let me say, okay, I have a video, by the way, if I can plug my own channel. On my channel, on the Deflating Atheism channel, I have a video called Ricky Gervais and the 3,000 Gods. That's one of my first videos. But I will say here is that is a non-argument. First off,
no, I mean, it's not. No, I'm not going to let you. I know you hate me saying this. I'm not going to let you get away with that. It's. I know, right? I know. I'm terrible. But it's that idea is important. Because for exactly the same reasons you probably disbelieve in all of the other gods is the reason I don't believe in yours.
Well, okay. First off, I don't really care what anyone. Well, I mean, as far as that goes, you can disbelieve. That is your prerogative to believe or disbelieve anything you want.
No, I'm saying you do as well.
Yeah, let me finish. But when you make thank you, by the way, when you make a claim about the world, is that then I'll pick that up from there. But this is the whole thing. Is that yes, you have these pagan gods. Mostly the pagan gods were kind of believed to be inhabiting the physical world. They were physical beings inhabiting the physical world. Maybe they had attributes like immortality or something. If you go to the third world today, where you have had missionaries go over and spread Christianity, what you find a lot of times is that there are the syncretistic religions where people still hold on to their pagan gods, in addition to acknowledging God as Jehovah as the one true God. Now we're talking about different categories here because the theistic God, the monotheistic God rather, has always been believed to be a timeless, transcendent, source of all being. Is not a dude inhabiting the physical world.
We've had monotheisms before, just throwing that out there, and they weren't timeless or anything.
That is basically the characteristic of monotheism, of the entire Abrahamic tradition.
There were other monotheisms before the Abrahamic religions.
Okay.
Just poking holes. It's what I do.
Well, I'm saying in this Abrahamic religion and in the God of the philosophers or whatnot, I'm not interested in saying any being that may or may not exist. I'm not committing myself to anything. There's a Christian you may know on YouTube called G-Man, and I disagree with some of the stuff he says.
Oh Lord!
But yes,
I've spoken to G-Man.
He made a good point though. Is if you're going to say, oh, they're atheists love saying there is no evidence for gods. They always make a point. They always think they're it's always a little witty put down. So I don't believe in gods. You can say, well, Cleopatra was considered to be a god. Do you believe that there's no evidence for Cleopatra? If you look at the 5%,
you know what people mean.
Let me finish. If you go look at the 5% Nation of Islam, they believe that black men and black women are gods. So you're going to say there's no evidence for black people? I mean, so you're going to have to define your terms.
Zeus.
Zeus?
Do you believe Zeus exists?
No, I don't.
Okay. Why don't you?
Well, because, we've been on Mount Olympus or whatever, and we could see that he's not there.
We've also been above the clouds, and heaven's not there either.
Yeah, because you're committing to that bullshit Yuri Gagarin quote where he says that there is no God, and that was completely manufactured by the Soviet government, yes.
What the hell are you talking about?
No, there is... there is supposedly, there's a meme graphic where it's supposed Yuri Gagarin, his statement when he went into outer space was, "I see no God here." Where
No, I'm saying that we've just gone above the clouds, and that's where the book says heaven is.
no, if whatever you see above the clouds there is not God. That's not never believed to be the
Anymore. It's not believed anymore. It was at a time.
Again, I disagree with you strongly there.
I recommend this goes into the generic pile of I recommend you research your own religion. Like the whole hourglass thing, that was believed for quite a long time.
Okay, now I have no idea what you're talking about.
The various firmaments, they were actual things that one could actually puncture. Like, it was believed that the sky was a dome, that the stars were lined in, and you had to break through it, and that's where the floodwater came in, bursting through the firmaments from above and below. It literally was a snow globe in people's minds. There's drawings of it. Like, people... This is a belief that people had for a long-ass time.
Okay, well, what were we talking about before?
I was trying to... I was trying to get you to admit that you're an atheist to every other god. But you're kind of jumping around. Because I would also agree that if people define a god as something that exists in the real world that I could look at and analyze, then yeah, I would agree that that thing exists. I just would probably disagree with whatever characteristics they're giving it. Like the actual deification, any magic or whatever. But the bigger issue is, like, why don't you believe... The bigger thing I wanted you to actually say is why don't you believe in Zeus or all the Egyptian gods or all of those types of gods that people did believe in for longer than Christianity existed? Why don't you believe in those?
Well, they don't occupy a whole lot of my brain space, honestly.
That's what I'm encouraging.
I don't walk around all day thinking about how much I don't believe in you know.
Well, indulge the next several moments then. What can you give a reason that you don't believe that those gods also exist? Let me say.
It's just it has not an issue for me. It hasn't been presented to me.
So, are you saying you are unconvinced that those gods exist?
Yes, I think that would be fair to say. You're going in like you've got me on the hook here. Yes. Yes.
That's the entire point. That's why I'm an atheist to your God as well.
Okay. Okay. Like I said, that's not even a basis for disagreement. Now, if I were to make a claim that no matter if I say Zeus doesn't exist, or if I say even something we accept, it doesn't have to be something like that. It could just be anything. If I say, Paris, France doesn't exist, then I commit myself to a burden of proving that correct. Which is why generally I don't go around talking about Zeus doesn't exist or anything, because that gets into a whole discussion. But yes, if I make a claim other than just my beliefs about a subject, then I do incur a burden of proof.
Well, yes. I agree with you. I'm just trying to get it so we both understand, like, the atheistic point of view. Or I guess a atheistic point of view. So you understand the lack of belief idea?
I don't believe that that's a useful definition of atheism, though.
Why? It's the basis of this conversation.
Because you guys go beyond that.
Sure. Of course we do. That's extra to the atheism.
Yes. Well, that's the thing, is if you are going to claim that I am erroneous in my thinking, that's what I keep going back to, then you're going to have to point out why you think I'm erroneous in my thinking.
I agree with you, and I intend to.
Start making claims about the world.
I agree, and I've been doing that for the past hour.
You have?
Oh, yes. Anywho, so that's a cool subject. Someone asked me to ask you about the Tower of Babel for some reason.
I have nothing. I've got nothing, honestly.
Do you think it actually happened? Or is that one of the other allegories?
I don't know. I think there's, in the Old Testament that there's definitely some historical germ there that is became the Tower of Babel story. Certainly, I mean, archaeologists keep finding these places in the Old Testament, but as far as the Tower of as far as that specifically, I really have nothing.
They found the Ark like 8 times.
Well, I'm not talking about the Ark, but I'm talking about like Sodom and places like that.
No, sure, and that's why like I would never say the Bible is a book of myths and nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just a mythologized book is probably the best way I would describe it. And that's why like it's useful like as a reference, I guess you could say, while you're doing your archaeology. But I really wouldn't push it past that point. Because there's a lot of historical things in there that have been brought in significant question. But that's a different topic. But what about I mentioned it haphazardly, but do you think the flood happened as described? Or do you think it was more of a regional thing?
Oh, I mean, I think the ancient Hebrew Bible doesn't really talk about the whole world in the way where it says like the earth. Actually, the word they were using is just like the land. So it just means the land was flooded.
Yeah, that's what I would agree with that.
Tecton TV, I mean, does great videos on this. But again, I'm a dilettante certainly with that kind of stuff let's
not dip into the historical stuff because I don't think either of us knows enough about it. Also, Darth Dawkins, which is an interesting name.
This is a guy on my team.
Yeah, stop spamming the chat with the Skype invite, or I'll block you. So, pick your teammates wisely.
Okay.
No, I'm just teasing. I only do that just so it can be conducive. I don't want it to just be spamming. But anywho,
I had no idea this was going to be like a pay-per-view fight or anything.
No, I wouldn't say that. But people are like messaging me on Facebook to like look at the chat. So
honestly, this is the truth. I woke up at 6:30. I was like, oh shit.
Wait, so you chose like what time is it for you?
It's 8, the same as you. It's 8:30.
Oh.
I woke up. Yeah,
sleeping in forever.
The official start of the conversation, I was actually still in bed. Yes.
Oh, that's a great one. Let's see. I'm trying to find more questions. Do you have any questions for me? Because I've been basically asking you questions nonstop for an hour.
Let me think about that. I'll be back.
Let's see. So it makes sense to believe the wrong God than no God at all, evidently. Would you like to discuss these topics in Skype? No, I wouldn't. So Darth, stop doing that. Jesus fucking Christ, you can't answer a question straightforward. Be nice, chat, be nice. A repeat question, but I think it's important. How does DA reconcile that Catholics, Baptists, Presbyterians, Methodists, etc., all considered Christian, believe completely different things? That's a good question. But your turn. Feel free to ask me something first.
I'm drawing a blank. But I don't see that. Yeah, there are doctrinal differences in the Christian denominations. I mean, Christians have those arguments. They say, well, based on the revelations of Jesus and what is this a correct belief or not? I mean, they certainly hash that out.
But why?
That does not mean Christianity is wrong. That Jesus is God incarnate. He came to Earth. And that's for the most part, a Christian denomination. Nice black nails, by the way. Assent to these premises, and so in the broadest outlines, they are in agreement. That does not mean just because you have an ideology, you cannot find an ideology on the face of this earth that does not have different little threads coming off of it.
I completely agree. And that is what I would expect if it was a created methodology of trying to explain the world from ancient times. This is not something I would expect if it was either the ordained will of a god or the revealed revelation of a god. So if this is the revelation of an actual deity, why has it been splintered basically from the start?
Why not?
Because it's God talking. Like, this is probably, I know we're going back into the Bible, but it's like, you know, the whole story with the golden calf getting built and then that whole thing happening?
Yeah.
Most ridiculous, I shouldn't say that. One of the most ridiculous things in the Bible. The God was literally leading them through the desert, feeding them magic food and water from heaven. And then Moses was gone for like a month or something. And they're like, well, no, let's forget that God. We're gonna make a new one. Like, that is ridiculous. Like, they would have to either have been so substantially stupid or just the story is made up.
I mean, that's one of those things. It's like, yeah, that's something I recognize in human nature all the time.
No. No, you don't. Like, people would not be like, I was literally fed magic from the sky, but now I don't believe in the thing that was doing that anymore. Like, this isn't the same as, like, you and me in a group of, like, devout Christians wandering through the desert. No God doing anything for us, and then landing in a mountain, and then, I don't know, you go up into the mountains and write down on some tablets. That would be like, they have no real evidence that what you're saying is accurate. These people did. They directly experienced the actions of a god. And yet they completely disowned it after the guy that was talking to him about it left for a little while. Like, this says to me that there is something missing in this story. Or more accurately, a lot of things added on.
I mean, I've got nothing. If that just seems ridiculous, it does not seem ridiculous to me.
If you had direct experience, not just belief or faith, but direct experience with the deity that you currently believe in?
I think that's what happens all the time. I think we are all sustaining ourselves off of God, and you have people who are eager to deny it and worship their own idols. I think that's what happens all the time.
Really? So you think that there are people out there that a god literally spoke to them or demonstrated himself to them personally? This actually happened, and they're just like, whoops, I don't believe in that anymore.
No, because
what have you done for me lately, God?
What you're failing to take into account is that when the Jews were being led through the desert and the manna was falling from heaven, there were some of those Hebrews were saying, oh no, that's just a God of the gaps to believe that the manna is coming from God. They were just saying it's God of the gaps.
Wait, atheists are saying this or Christians?
Yeah, they were atheists.
I'm like, who is saying this?
Yeah, so the manna's falling, but no, it's not rational to posit that there is a God giving us this manna, because that's just a God of the gaps.
No, I'm once more, I'm going with the story. And the story makes it sound really silly.
But that's the point, is that anyone can deny. We all have free will. Anyone can deny.
But who would? Who would deny something they have direct experience of?
That's what I'm saying. We all have direct experience.
No, we don't.
Yes.
That's the problem. I've never had direct experience with a god, so I don't believe one exists. I don't know how to say it any other way. I shouldn't say just direct experience. I've also heard no substantial argument to convince me of it. But it's like, because you don't necessarily need direct experience, blah, blah, blah. But is that what you actually think? That, like, people are just, they're using their free will to deny the existence of God that has been revealed to them?
Most definitely.
So if I told you that that is not what's happening, that I have not gotten any direct experience of a god, do you think I'm just lying?
I think
God never revealed himself to me.
Ourselves.
Like, God never revealed himself to me in any way. Do you think I'm just lying to you?
I mean that's what I'm saying is that I mean just being in the world is a constant revelation.
No,
And
it's not. Being in the world is a revelation of me being in the world. This goes back to our previous argument. Like, why does the God necessary? Like, where is the God inserted here? Or is necessarily inserted here? Because right now it looks like you're just plopping a God on top of a normal lived experience and then being surprised why no one believes that it's there.
Okay.
Why?
I mean that gets into a whole argument. The fact a universe exists at all, I think, just just kind of the wondrousness and beauty of the world combined, that it hits us on a very fundamental level. And yeah, and so I think
why a God? Where do God insert?
So let me ask you this question: What would have to be the case for you to think that God is a rational, justified inference?
The same thing for most things that I believe exist. Like, it would need to have some kind of demonstrable evidence that can be, I was about to say reconciled, but that's the wrong word. Mutually supported by other people's evidence, and that experience then can be replicated, and that we can determine, I'm not exactly sure how, that it was necessarily from a God and not by anything else.
Well, even you don't know. Even you can't say what would have to be the case for God to be around, because it seems to me that you've excluded God a priori from your entire worldview.
Of course. Why would I?
I say that's what you have done.
No, I'm saying why wouldn't I, rather? Because I could just say it was the stapler before everything else. Like, that's pre-sup stuff. I don't care.
That is logically incoherent, though.
It's pre-sup arguments. That is a non-starter.
No, I mean that's a logically incoherent argument. Is that a stapler that exists in the world is causally prior to the world itself?
This is only the physical manifestation of the super stapler that exists outside of our universe. This is what I hear when someone says a God exists outside of the universe that caused everything. That is literally what I hear when someone says that. It is just as coherent.
I mean, you can call it, that's what I'm saying, it doesn't matter. You can call it anything you want, but if you're going to have a cause of the universe, there are certain attributes it must have.
No, actually. That is incorrect. The universe could create itself based on its own internal characteristics. The universe could have always existed in some form.
That would mean the universe is causally prior to itself, which is really incoherent.
So, everything we understand about physics breaks down near the beginning of the universe.
But you even have those laws of physics in the first place. You're saying those laws of physics are responsible for those laws of physics. You have to have some sort of circular reasoning there.
Well, if we're going to go through a hypothesis that isn't actually that accurate anymore, then it's really the physics characteristics at the end of our universe causes the next one to happen. Infinite expansion, infinite crush. That's what that hypothesis was about. Our universe just fluxes continuously.
Okay, so you have an infinite regress.
Yes, because the universe existed forever in some way.
Different laws of physics, creating different laws of physics.
Yes. There is, like, that's the funny glib response to, like, oh, God is the eternal creator of everything. It's like, why could the universe be eternal?
Well, I mean that is certainly grist for the scientific mill. I don't think the consensus view among scientists Is
No,
that
the consensus among the scientists is that our current universe had a beginning. We don't know what happened before our universe.
Let's see if it's even intelligible to talk about what happened before the beginning of time.
Hence the before.
Yes.
But that's my point, is all of this, the reason I dismiss the idea of an a priori God is because there's no reason to think one exists. Like, why would I even entertain that idea? That was the question. Why would I entertain that idea? Like, what justification is there for a God to exist before anything? Like, I need evidence right now to analyze if a God exists in any capacity. So, how do I do that for something that existed before stuff happened?
A God is timeless. He wasn't waiting around.
How do you know that?
Because this is what the entire philosophical tradition, going back to Aristotle, has always held to be true. It's like there's a timeless first cause.
Did he even know that washing his hands was a good idea? Like, I don't particularly, I don't take him as an authority just because he was really old.
Yeah, it's wrong because it's old.
No, I'm saying it's not right because it's old.
And
so, I'm asking why. Not because Aristotle said so, not because it's a tradition to believe that this happened. I'm saying, what evidence do you have? No, listen, it's what evidence do you have? I'm sorry, go ahead. We're talking over each other.
If you're going to criticize the position, you have to represent the position you're criticizing accurately. Otherwise, you're arguing against a straw man. And I mean, this happens all the time. And it's like, well, you know, atheists say, oh, well, you just believe in a magic man in the sky. It's like, no, I don't believe in a magic man in the sky. I believe this, that. They think the fact that I'm clarifying my own position is supposed to be the argument. No, it's not. I'm just saying.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fair. So that's why I'm asking, like, what justification do you have right now for an a priori God?
Because I think going to the classical first cause arguments, the contingency argument, the kalam, and going to fine tuning, and then going to like the resurrection of Jesus Christ. I mean, I think these are all sound arguments.
So the frequent rebuttals of all of them, they don't faze you.
I think the frequent rebuttals are completely uninformed. Most atheists are not even able to accurately describe the arguments they're critiquing.
I think
it's like I can't tell you the number of times like atheists have just completely fumbled the kalam. They can't even you have to be able to describe the argument you're criticizing accurately before you can make any valid criticisms of it, you know?
You realize the Kalam cosmological argument is a rehashing of the original cosmological argument, right? Like, it was changed because the first version was destroyed effortlessly.
No, I don't know that.
They changed.
I don't think it's true, but
the Kalam cosmological argument was changed so that it was like, I'm gonna get the wording wrong, so feel free to correct me. But it was something like, things that began to exist need a cause.
That has been the Kalam since the very beginning.
Yes, before that was another cosmological argument, was just simply things that exist needed a cause. And then immediately people were like, then where did God come from?
No, that's never.
And then the argument got rephrased so that God would be excluded.
That's never been a premise of any cosmological.
Look it up.
Things. Look it up. Yeah, you're going. What's that? The courtier's response.
Yes, yeah. Because I'm sorry to say, but I think this particular thing you just didn't happen to know, which is fine. But yeah, it was changed so that God would be.
Got that from like Matt Dillahunty or some other low rent intellect. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. You realize the high rank intellects won't debate Dillahunty because he doesn't have a degree. So yeah, that's kind of low ball kind of nonsense. But anyway. I'm sorry, PhD specifically.
Well,
I'm just being bitter.
Okay.
Anywho, that's the point, is the Kalam is worded in such a way to exclude a god by definition, which just makes it silly.
You didn't say that right, but...
No, that's what I meant to say. It's worded in such a way that God can be excluded from the premises of the argument. Because by the definition you give of the god... Okay. Yeah, you see what I mean? By the definition you're giving of a god, it is a thing that does not have to have a cause. Therefore, it can cause everything. It's stupid. Like, I hate to say it that way, but it's just stupid.
No, it's not. Because first off, you can argue against the negation of the first premise and say, well, if something can come into being uncaused, you say, why doesn't everything and anything come into being uncaused? That does not actually apply to if the premise was just everything has a cause.
I'm aware. That's why it was changed.
No, because there's an argument against the negation that does not hold. So we can validate the premise of everything that comes into being has a cause. That does not equally hold for the premise that everything has a cause. You can argue against the negation of the qualified first premise. Not to this. First off, it's bullshit that everything has a cause was ever a premise of any cosmological argument. You're asserting that as fact. You're not providing any source for that. I think you probably just got that from some atheist propaganda site.
Cosmological argument.
Now, that's another thing you seem to be confused about, is that there's not one cosmological argument. It's an entire family of philosophical arguments.
That was the point I was making.
Arguments. No, because you're only thinking about things that begin to exist temporally in time. There are things that exist contingently. There are things about the Leibnizian cosmological argument that involves, sufficient reasons. I'm probably not saying that right, but no, it's an entire family of things. It's an entire family of arguments, and my quality of debate is falling precipitously here. It's an entire family of arguments, not just God, sparking the universe into existence. Because Aristotle, he believed in an eternally existing universe. He believed that the universe existed infinitely in the past, but he still acknowledged that there needed to be a prime mover.
And I'm not seeing the reason for that.
Well, it exists on the internet, so go look it up. I'm not going to do your homework for you.
I am. It's right here.
I'm teaching you what you gave me. It's on the internet. I'm not going to do your homework for you again.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. It's not that... Like, we basically agreed on that point. That there are versions of the cosmological argument that just was things like... No. I believe that there are several valid cosmological arguments. The existence of one does not negate the other. They all have their own weight. They all prove different things. That's what I'm saying, is a cosmological argument is about how things require a first cause. It is not all of the form of the Kalam. And I believe the contingency argument is valid. I believe the Kalam is valid. I don't believe these take away from each other. And so here's just a basic logic point. Just because something is valid doesn't mean it's sound. So
agreed.
I don't necessarily care if an argument is valid. It's like superficially interesting if something is like consistent through its terms, but I care about the soundness of an argument, and like
the soundness of its premises, rather.
Sure. So like number one, everything that begins to exist has a cause of its existence. How do you know that?
Because again, you can make an argument against its negation.
No, you can't. That's the black swan fallacy.
You just love these imperious proclamations. No, you can't.
Do you know the black swan fallacy?
What is it?
It's I've only viewed white swans, therefore black swans can't exist. You can't prove something just because you can't just make an argument against a negation when you're making a statement about existence.
Okay, well, I mean, again, that does not mean that I mean it's a criticism that holds against the Kalam.
That is the criticism I'm giving. Is can you
Because
prove?
You're assuming that the first premise is entirely experiential, which is not necessarily true.
Yes, it is. It's things that exist in the universe, and I guess including the universe itself.
No,
all
but
encompassing. So, like, there's the silly argument. It's not really silly. It's just complicated. Of virtual particles seemingly come into existence with no cause, and then go out of existence for a similar reason.
Except they don't.
Except they do.
Except they don't.
It's a
the problem with your argument, Deterlicum, is that you're wrong. That you're gravely in error. Virtual particles do not come into existence uncaused. They come from the quantum foam, from the quantum vacuum. They are acted upon in accordance with a pre-existing set of laws of physics. So it is not uncaused.
Okay, so I understand. Okay, that was just I needed the clarification on what you meant by cause. So fair enough.
Okay, and the fact that these virtual particles they come into being, they have a determined nature. They have a predetermined charge. They have a predetermined spin. And these things are said. That should clue us in. That should clue us into the fact that their nature is determined, because they have these determinate aspects to them. It's not an element.
No, that's fine. I thought you meant like agency had to be involved with cause or something. Doesn't matter. That clarification accepted.
And let me just. This is a good point, because just the complete incoherence of atheist objections to the first premise of the Kalam.
No, because it's funny because of how you're wording this. So continue.
Is that atheists have two objections to the first premise, and one objection is that nothing ever comes into being, and the second objection is that things come into being all the time. So they have these two objections to the first premise that are completely contradictory.
No, I think
nothing ever begins to exist because it's all made of pre-existing stuff, and they say, oh well, virtual particles come into being all the time. Your criticisms of the
listen, I can explain both those points. I think it's because of what we mean by, like, it's a term problem. It's basically a semantic issue. So I don't think they contradict each other. They're just coming from different positions. So, like, under that kind of description, then I actually would go in the direction of nothing comes into being because everything already exists. So it's like, you could easily go down that route if you wanted to go by those definitions. So in that way, the Kalam could be wrong. Or if you're talking about things, if you're trying to, like, rope the universe into this conversation.
Yeah, which would be my first objection. But that's
okay. It's based on its own internal characteristics. That's what caused it.
So the universe is causally prior to itself.
Yup.
Okay, so I can have an argument. I can say the Bible is true because the Bible is true, because I can have a cause just loop around. The Bible is true because it says it's true. If something can be the cause of itself.
No, that's a different circumstance.
Oh no, I think it's exactly the same. You're assuming something prior to itself. You're immediately guilty of circular thinking there.
I think you're getting circular reasoning confused with an actual circular process. Like, the water cycle is a circular process. That doesn't mean there's a problem with it. I'm saying the physical characteristics that were slowly generated at the beginning of time is what generated the universe in the present state that it is in now. We don't know at all what happened before that, or if any causal things happened before that, or if before that happened.
Do you believe that the laws of physics are part and parcel of the universe?
The ones that govern our universe, yes, they are part of the universe.
This is starting to be great, by the way. I thought I do that a lot. But
it's necessary because before that fraction of a second, we can't measure anything. So we don't know what's going on.
Whether it's quantum gravity or some other things that we haven't said yet, there was still a physical regime in place of kind of determinate physical laws, right?
Maybe. We can't measure anything. We don't know. Like,
no, I mean I'm not asking what we know. I'm saying that there were a set of laws governing what happened.
No, so this is probably a clarification I should have given originally. So the idea is the physical characteristics of here's a better way of wording it, of the start of our universe is what created the universe that we have. Before that, we don't know anything.
Undoubtedly. We
don't know anything before that. We might not ever be able to know anything before that.
That's completely aside. What I'm saying is
everything other than we don't know is pointless conjecture at this point.
Look. Let me say this. Yes, at the beginning of the universe, we had a set of physical laws. We had a primordial stuff, and the way we see the universe today originates from those set of physical laws and primordial stuff. We're assuming those in the first place.
No, we're not. We're observing them.
No, you already said we can't observe what happened.
No, we're
at quantum gravity era.
Yes, because we have no way to measure it currently.
I don't even see how this is a productive discussion, but I mean,
it probably isn't, and we're probably boring people at this point.
It just seems completely trivial. I mean, yeah, I'm not arguing that we could observe laws in the beginning of the universe that would explain. That's the entire point of cosmology, is to explain how the universe we see derives from a primordial substance and a set of physical laws. That's the entire project of cosmology. I'm not debating that. What I'm saying is that a cosmological model cannot explain the origin of that substance or of those physical laws that governs its entire behavior from that point onwards.
And asserting a god did it doesn't explain it either.
That's another assertion on your part. I think it becomes a rational inference to say that yes, there was.
I don't care if it's a rational inference.
There was a necessarily existing thing that created these things. It was not necessary. There was a timeless first cause that is originated this temporal entire fold. You know.
Wow, the entire chat just evolved into everyone arguing with Darth Dawkins. Sorry, what?
No.
So, okay, let's just move on because
sorry, I got no one in. It's like you could tell I wasn't really. If I overslept the start time of this, I was not prepared. I
didn't prepare for anything either. I was just gonna ask you random ass questions.
I didn't know this is going to be like the pay-per-view fight. You know.
It's a live stream.
Okay.
And I'm semi-popular, I guess? I don't know. I have several very dedicated fans, I'll say that. Oh, and he's basically... So, Darth Dawkins said that you're terrible and he should be the one talking.
Oh, okay. That's probably fair.
So, shots fired.
That hurts my feelings.
Yeah. Don't be mean, Darth.
What the hell? I mean, who's going to be looking at this anyway? It's an hour and a half at this point.
So we have 26 people watched at once. I don't know how many people are watching now. Hopefully nobody. No one deserves to go through this. Anyway, so we're near it. We have like 10... We probably could go like 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Just so we're not pulling our eyes out.
Yes.
Even though, honestly, I think this has been a very civil and productive conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, we're so awesome at this.
Yes.
Anywho, this looks really weird from the other position.
Oh, my feelings are genuinely hurt, yes.
Well, by the way, Deflating Atheism is a friend, then why did you badmouth him? Anywho, it's in the chat. It's being recorded. You can't hide, Darth. Apparently he thinks evolution is false, so I think I will talk to him later. I have fossils literally behind me. Yes. So it's like... bring it. Okay, so we could probably fit in one more large topic. So, what you got? You have to have questions for me. I mean, I can't just be asking you stuff.
Okay, well, like I said, when I was, I feel like I finally found my rhythm here, by the way. But when I was discussing with James Bishop, I asked him the question. It's like, where do you see like popular opinion on atheism going, or Christianity going in 5 to 10 years? And then like,
I can actually answer. I can answer part of that.
Okay.
It's what you can actually see a lot in the skeptical, I'll just say in the umbrella term of skeptical community. So people that used to argue about religion all the time, they basically switched to arguing about other issues.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that and again, we have vastly different ways of looking at this. I'm sure a lot of the long timer atheist channels have gone into anti-feminism and anti-SJW. And what's odd is that
or the other side, like some of them have gone.
Yeah. And but the one that has more kind of muscle behind it is definitely, I think you'd agree, the anti-SJW.
Depends on how you define muscle, but yeah. There's a lot at this point.
It's more dynamic. But what's odd is that these are the people who will then get behind someone like Milo Yiannopoulos or Steven Crowder, who are Christians, you know. And so the whole the way this
here
has created odd bedfellows, you know.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's one of the easy examples is one of the big people in separation of church and state issues is a pastor. And he's been on this for years.
Oh yeah.
It's basically like it doesn't matter if you're disagreeing on the same thing, then it doesn't matter what you also believe in.
Yeah.
It's not quite enemy of my enemy is my friend, but it's really close.
Well, yeah, it's that I feel like a lot of atheists feel they have more in common with Milo Yiannopoulos than they do with Steve Shives or someone like that, you know.
Oh Lord, I'm blocked by Steve Shives.
Well, he has a bot. He has a bot that does it. So
apparently they're called block lists.
Yeah.
And everyone is on one of his block lists.
Yeah.
Because I think you get put on that list if you like a channel that is deemed as negative.
Yeah.
And I subscribe to everybody. I'm subscribed to Steve Shives. So it's one of those weird situations. Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of like atheist people tended to float in that direction. Because I think, to be fair, there is a degree of just anti-authoritarianism. And atheists just don't like being told what to do.
Yeah, no. I definitely think that's a part of it. I also think I don't even think it would have been an issue for a whole lot of them, except with the whole Gamergate. And you start poking.
That did explode a lot of it.
People have their own little nice things that they like. And you're probably not going to like this. I kind of think of atheism as being a boys' club. It's very young. They live in this little kind of boys' clubby kind of world. And video games.
So many atheists would be so pissed at you for that.
I know exactly. But when you
ladies, speak up.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see the comment section light up finally. So get some life into this. But when you poke that hornet's nest, it's like, oh no, that's a hornet's nest you don't want to poke. And so I think it incurred the SJW feminist thing incurred their wrath, and so they moved with like this hive mind into attacking feminists and stuff. But that, it kind of goes into what I'm saying is that atheism was so boring to begin with. It's like, how many times can you talk about fucking Santa Claus and unicorns and invisible sky fairies before you just bore yourself? You know?
I think it's just because for a good while, and I'm pretty sure like we could agree on this, is that like super evangelical Christians were an outright like regressive force in the United States. Like anti-gay, anti-women's rights. There was a lot of issues that were spearheaded by a lot of religious people. So when those issues simmered down a little bit, basically where everyone kind of came to a neutral understanding of each other, then people were just like, all right, what is there to talk about now? I'm still really into the skeptical mindset. I don't think people are actively looking for what can I disagree with now. But I think it seemed like that to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of atheists just kind of streamed in that direction, because they saw, I don't even like calling it feminism at this point, but like just
third-rate feminism.
I don't even like calling it that, like, because a lot of the people that say some of this stuff don't even sound like they're for women.
Yeah.
So, regressive is just the umbrella term. So I'm just going to say regressive, because that also includes, like, right-wing regressives, or, like, hyper-religious regressives. So
yeah, I've never been clear on that terminology myself.
That's why I like using umbrella terms.
Yeah.
Anyone who decides that the way we live right now is bad, and the only way to live a better life is to go backwards.
Well, backwards is a kind of subjective term.
Yeah, obviously. So yeah. It's more like more authoritarian, honestly, less personal rights.
Yeah.
Which is
because the feminists are forcing you to abide by their codes. And so
I'm very centrist on a lot of issues.
Pragmatic ones are, yes. And so I can definitely see, like I said, I don't think the whole, obviously I don't think atheists are justified in just kind of their shitting on religion or just as a whole or Christianity.
No, this is like
basically but it's part and parcel of that,
No, but that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because I did feel that vibe from you in your response video.
Well,
I think a lot. No, listen. Yeah. A lot of my conversation with you is just objections to claims.
Okay.
Like, have you seen that? Like, that's kind of what I was trying to put across, is that I'm not like rejecting God or super against like everyone that is religious. It's just the ideas I disagree with.
Okay. Well, what was the vibe? What was the vibe? I mean about feminism or something.
Oh, I was saying the vibe about your response video to me.
Which was what?
Oh, that you were antagonistic and very bitter.
Oh, yes, undoubtedly, yes. You
were much more pleasant in person.
Oh, thank you. I'm actually surprised you say that. But no, that's what I'm saying. Is that like a lot of long time Christians have been underrepresented on YouTube. I think a lot of them, they just, you're an idiot, you're stupid, blah blah blah. It's like I have that kind of gadfly personality that when a person throws stuff like that at me, I just grow more powerful. I feed off negative energy, So
I'm the same way. I just like arguing.
Yeah. That's the thing. You get over. It's like, oh, you're ugly. You're stupid. You're worthless. You're a moron. It's like, yes, I grow more powerful, because
that's why I enjoy civil conversations, because it's simultaneously disarming and you actually get conversation done.
Yes. Well, yeah. I felt like I was like leaping to speak over you sometimes. But yeah, that's the thing. I have to say, and I just have to say, I think the behavior, arguments aside, the behavior of atheists on YouTube is often despicable. I would often say that so many public atheists on YouTube and their minions, I would say, are vile. That is the word I would use. They're vile.
Okay. How do you say that?
I'm not going to trot out my whole experience here.
No, so first off, no YouTuber is responsible for their fans. Like, that's just ridiculous.
I think they definitely are to a degree. I think
that's ridiculous. So you're responsible for Darth Dawkins arguing with all of my subscribers.
First off, I don't have any fans. Okay, I don't have any followers. I have a handful of subscribers. I'm not printing out T-shirts for my minions to wear. Okay.
That's the dude. They're not minions. These are people that just happen to like the stuff that you in the general sense are producing.
Well,
and
no,
to the point that they want to get shirts because they like them.
You're only saying that because you've never had to deal with the minions of someone like Bubonic Dance. Though those are people, I believe.
Wait, Bionic Dance?
Yeah, that's what I call her.
I know Bionic Dance.
Yes. I mean, I think it's one thing where they could put their foot down if they wanted to. They could correct, but they engender.
No, they can't.
They engender.
They literally can't.
Mentality. Do you not think it's possible for a YouTuber to engender a certain attitude among their followers?
Yes, I think it's impossible.
But do you not think? Remember, I can't remember her name now, but there was a Christian girl on YouTube, and she had a mildly successful channel, and then she made a video about gay marriage. I think Repsian jumped on it, and he was making like crude sexual innuendos. He basically said, "Oh, go attack this girl," and she ended up closing her channel.
I've never heard Repsian ever attack anybody. And I've heard almost everything he's ever said.
Do you know the girl I'm talking about? The incident, this was like 2 years ago or something.
I mean...
Oh, okay, I'm going to have to look this up. But yeah...
I don't remember, but... No, this is the point, is... Okay, channel, all of my subscribers, it is my stance that it is improper to harass, go after, viciously insult, or do anything to anybody ever. I can't stop them from doing anything.
Well, like I'm saying, I'm not accusing every atheist YouTuber of doing it, but
no, literally. So I'm trying to think of someone who expressly did this.
Be right back. Keep talking.
Emanuela. Lemenuela? Huh. Oh, so Gamergate was a thing. It was a combination of an issue with journalism in the gaming industry, but turned into this whole kerfuffle about feminism. Yeah. Look it up. There's plenty of information on it.
Nice use of the word kerfuffle. But yes.
No, but here's the deal. You cannot control fans. It is impossible. I mean, I could give like an outside YouTube example. If you are a pastor to a mega church, are you now responsible to literally every single person in that church? If they go out and commit crimes, is it your fault?
I mean, like, no, that's we're talking about patterns of behavior. We're not talking about some one-off, flukish occurrences. You're just like, oh well, the Westboro Baptist Church. Do you not think that those people are responsible for engendering a certain attitude among the like their 30 congregants or whatever, you know?
No, I think each individual person in that congregation is despicable, and they're responsible for their own actions, like every individual of every group of people.
I just
like if you go to if you're from like an abusive family, is like the family responsible for your being abusive in the future? Is that what you're saying? Because that's not how like a channel works. Like there's no grooming. You're not like training individuals. These people are stopping by to watch your bullshit.
I don't know. I think there's definitely there's definitely these mini cults. I would hold Bionic Dance up as an example, where they're definitely taking cues from our.
So how?
It's almost like Lady Gaga with her little monsters or something. It's like, yeah, there's the island of misfits here, and they're all taking their cues from a.
Well, then we can go to extreme examples. Oh, what's the kid who read Catcher in the Rye and murdered someone? Or he wanted to? Is the writer of Catcher in the Rye responsible for it?
I'm talking about encouraging. That's what I'm saying. They're encouraging a certain attitude.
No, I'm saying so. So even if we want to go this route, in a legal sense, there is a difference between encouraging violence and people just for some reason getting violent because of something.
Yeah, I don't
like
think
there are no channels in the atheist. Well, there probably are, but I don't watch all of them. But all the big name ones do not say go out and attack people.
Oh no, I've definitely seen it go out and sink this guy in ratings. I've had it happen to me. I've had it happen to me with Bionic Dance. Is that she basically sinks her followers to sink a video in her ratings. I had to block her because I didn't want her watching my videos because all her followers would come over and try to sink me in ratings. And you could go through my channel, look at the ratings, and suddenly one of them is going to have 10 times more dislikes than my surrounding videos. It's because she sent her followers to sink me in ratings.
Inciting is the word. Thank you, Vulcan.
Yes.
So I'll just give an example we both can identify with.
It doesn't even have to be an explicit instruction, as I said. It could just be.
No, you see, no, I would agree with you 100%. Dude, listen to me. I would agree 100%. If someone incites somebody to do that, that's not a cool thing to do. I would completely agree with that. And I haven't watched all of Bionic Dance's things, but if she is doing that, then I viciously disagree. But the difference is, and I can give you an exact example, have you looked at the ratings of the video you made against me?
I can do that right now.
The last time I looked, they were even. It was like...
I'll take your word for it.
They were like 30-something versus 30-something.
That's about how the cookie crumbles with most of my videos, unless it gets called out by some atheists. I have no problem. I really have no problem because I understand a lot of Christian channels regularly have to deal with having like 10 times more dislikes than likes. So I'm not complaining that it's at parity, you know.
No, like I wasn't aware of your particular circumstances, but I was giving that as an example of I never told anyone to go downvote your things, but people downvoted them because they saw my video. I imagine. Chat people, tell me if you did that.
Oh wait, did you make a response to my response?
No, but I made an announcement this afternoon saying go watch this video before you see the chat so you know what the fuck we're talking about.
Well, I'm not particularly butthurt about that because I think that's about where it stood before that. So
no, but that's my example is what I did sending my minions to downvote your video. I mean, what's the difference?
Let's get off this soon because I don't think this is a very interesting or productive discussion. But like I said, I mean, it can be that it can be an explicit command, or as I said, it can be a attitude. My words are going for me. It could just be like this attitude that the YouTuber helps cultivate. I don't think you're running a cult of personality here. I can't say the same for other guys like TJ or Atheism is Unstoppable that definitely have their own little cults of personality. So,
but that doesn't make sense. It I will agree 1,000%. Inciting people to just destroy other people's channels, I think, is not cool to do. But if what I recommended people do is watch this before you watch the live stream so that you have some context on who these people are that are talking. But if all I said was go watch it.
Yeah.
If they watch it and then, say all thousands of my subscribers went and watched it all at once for some reason. That has never happened, but say that happened. And you got 500 downvotes. Would that be my fault? Or would that just be free people being aware of something and not liking it?
That's a fact of life. I mean, no, I'm not going to hold you responsible because it's just
that was my entire point.
It's a fact of life that when atheists see a Christian video, they are going to downvote it no matter what.
I didn't downvote
Honestly,
it.
You're going to disagree with that, but that's the truth. I
didn't downvote it.
Oh.
Ooh. I didn't upvote it either.
Well, that's what I'm saying. En masse, that is what happens. It's a fact of life. So I'm not. If in fact it happened, and like I said, I have no evidence it has because I'm pretty sure the votes were at parity before.
I didn't pay that much attention to it either.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as an example, there are ways that downvotes can happen that have nothing to do with people commanding them to happen.
Let me say this. Let me say this too. Let's say you have a little YouTube cult of personality thing, and such that the fans of this person act in a shitty way, and the YouTuber never calls any of them out. Never says no. That's a bad thing to do. Do you agree that that might help encourage a certain malicious strain?
I honestly don't think it would change anything. If atheism is unstoppable, one of the most vitriolic atheist YouTubers I've ever seen in my life.
He's the only atheist I find tolerable, in fact, and a lot of people disagree with that.
You see, I watch a lot of his videos as well, but I'm just saying, he's a very excitable individual. But the point that I'm making is, if he says don't downvote people's videos, his group of people that have subscribed to him wouldn't care. Like, Thunderfoot is someone that has a whole lot of subscribers. TJ has a huge number of subscribers.
Okay, so let's...
if any of them said to their fans, I command you, obviously they would say it in a different way, don't downvote people, it wouldn't matter.
I'm talking about calling out. And let's say one of...
It wouldn't do anything.
Would you just calm down?
These are individuals. They're not a flock.
If one of Atheism is Unstoppable's fan with the flying monkeys, if one of his flying monkeys doxes a YouTuber, maybe like a feminist YouTuber or something, and he never ever says anything, he never says no, that was a bad thing to do. Don't you think they have a responsibility to say no, you shouldn't do that, that's wrong?
No, they don't. Those are individuals making their own decisions. I've never heard of it. There was one thing about Atheism Unstoppable specifically, but most of the other, like basically every one of the top atheists that I've heard of have actively denounced doxing. But that doesn't mean that individual people that follow them will dox occasionally. Here's an example that's freaking ridiculous, but Mr. Repzion, people were accusing him of influencing some guy to go on a stabbing spree. Because this person stabbed a bunch of people and was subscribed to Mr. Repzion. Is he responsible?
That's not an argument I was making, but yeah.
No, I'm taking it to the extreme to make a point, obviously. Yeah. So that's what I mean, is a creator is not responsible for the free will of all the other people. I know, I said that on purpose.
Wow, taking it way back.
Except the difference.
You've been playing checkers. I've been playing chess this whole time. I got you the checkmate.
I know you would enjoy that. That's why I said it that way. But obviously, I did not create my fans.
I'm playing the long game here. No.
Yes, if I created my fans, you might have a leg to stand on.
Okay, we've done this. Okay.
I thought you'd have fun. Yeah, does everybody have a responsibility to denounce every bad thing in their group ever does? It's impossible.
Like
TJ has literally 1 million subscribers.
I'm talking about a culture. I'm talking about an entire culture. I'm talking about a pattern of behavior. I'm not talking about one-off events.
It doesn't matter.
Do you believe? I mean, do I even need? Do you believe that to take it in pop culture? Do you believe that fans of Howard Stern fit a certain mold and are kind of encouraged in their behavior than a fan of someone else? That they all
matter.
That all trickles down from the top.
I think you give creators of content way too much power. These are the masses of subscribers are individuals that I guarantee the vast majority subscribe to more than just them. So it's ridiculous. It's like, I mean, what if one of my fans subscribe to you or vice versa? Does that mean that we both now have responsibility for their actions?
Because no, I mean you. you're missing my point here, because neither I nor you are running these little charismatic cults of personality. We're both fairly neutral, boring people, I think. But
you should watch more of my videos.
But when you're dealing with someone like Bionic Dance, she's a raving, irrational lunatic, and her fan base, I've noticed, tend to be irrational lunatics. So I kind of think there's some expressions like you kill the snake, the whatever. But yeah, so I definitely think a trickle.
You chop off the head, the body will follow.
Yeah, so my mind's not going here. But
no,
yeah,
you won't. They'll just go somewhere else.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I'm not saying this applies equally, but some people are running little mini cults.
Holy shit! Deflating is making the feminist argument of patriarchy. Are you now?
I don't know how to respond to that.
Good job, Bolihan. You made him speechless. Okay, so we went overtime because of that random tangent.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to call... Deter is not entirely neutral. Thank you. He knows. Or she, or they. I don't discriminate, except when I do. Alright, so I'm actually going to call it, just because otherwise we're never ever going to stop.
Okay, yeah, that's fair, yeah.
This has been a very interesting and largely entertaining conversation. I'm glad you were able to join me for this, and I hope I poked enough holes and had you think about stuff.
Well, speaking of poking holes, I guess here I'll plug my channel so all your little minions can all...
Everything of your stuff is in the description below.
Yeah, so deflating, and that's actually my subline is poking holes in atheist propaganda.
Yeah, you did such a good job. I rolled my eyes as heavily as I possibly could.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
My stapler is more powerful than your reference. Anyway, plug away and we'll be done.
Okay, plugging is done.
Darth Dawkins, Deflating Atheism, you were terrible.
Jeez.
I think you guys have to have a talk later.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing no one is going to sit through 2.5, whatever, 3 hours. no,
oh, dude, you want to know the thing? The stats for this? Total viewing time, 46 hours. Of just concurrent people watching.
Yeah. That's like 15 viewers, though.
Shut up. That's awesome. All right, chill away.
Okay, well, I've already done it. Deflating Atheism. So go view my channel. Please don't flood me with downvotes. And I apologize. Darth Dawkins, I apologize for my poor performance. I'm deeply hurt. And that's it.
I don't know if this will make you feel better, but you had a predictable performance from me.
That would be a good time to cut it right there.
No, this was a very good conversation. I'm not gonna have a glib response. I'm glad you participated. I learned a few things, which is always nice, and I refined some arguments. Hooray! Yay. I'm Deter Lucum. I hope to have many more of these chats with various people. If any of you in the chat or you deflating have any recommendations, or DA, because calling you deflating sounds weird.
Or deflateism.
Deflated? That sounds even worse.
Deflateism.
I'm not going to say that.
Two words together.
Never going to say that. So this guy, if any of you have any recommendations for who I should talk to next, please put in the comment section below. Please let us know who you think, I don't know, had good points on either side. I don't care. Put it all in the comment section below. And just to prove something, I guess, do not go to Deflating's video and viciously downvote him. But since I have absolutely no control over what any of you do, make your own decisions as well. Yeah, I don't know what that's gonna do.
Well, it was nice talking with you. I'm sorry. It was
nice talking to you as well.
Sorry for the delay, and hopefully I got up out of bed, took a shower, and hopefully I presented myself well.
Now I have just a random video of me and a friend chatting about nothing, including this one. So, hooray! 2 videos in one day.
Yes.
Actually, 3. I'm a machine. Anyway, we're done. Thank you all for watching. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Or morning, or whatever. Yes, goodbye. Keep waving for the next, 12 seconds.